You're tuning in to Creepy Time, where we bring you chilling creepy stories and eerie urban legends every day at 6 p.m. To support Creepy Time, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss the story together. Now, let's dive into today's tale, The Grinning Man. The first time I heard about him, I laughed. The name alone, The Grinning Man, sounded like a bad Halloween costume idea, but names don't make things any less real. I was in my father's attic when I first came across it, a yellowing, brittle clipping from the Elizabeth Daily Journal, dated the 12th of October, 1966. He had circled the headline in red ink, like he always did when something unsettled him. Boys report strange encounter with man grinning ear to ear in Elizabeth. I almost threw it out, but I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. Two boys, Martin Munoff and James Yanchitis, were walking home late one evening in a quiet New Jersey suburb. The sun had set, the streetlights flickered. What they saw next would become one of the most whispered urban legends in American paranormal history. He was just standing there, smiling. James Yanchitis, in a later interview, they described a tall man, nearly 7 feet, dressed in a metallic green suit, no hair, no eyebrows, thin lips twisted into a grin far too wide, and most chilling of all, he never blinked, never moved, just watched. Now, let me be clear, stories of strange men aren't uncommon, but what made this different wasn't the figure, it was the grin. 3 days after the boy's sighting, something even stranger happened. A man in West Virginia named Woodrow Derenberger had a roadside encounter with a similar being, tall, grinning, emotionless, who introduced himself as Indrid Cold. This wasn't coincidence. Multiple researchers, including John Keel, author of the Mothman Prophecies, have speculated that Indrid Cold and the Grinning Man are either the same entity or somehow related. Both appeared during moments of high strangeness, UFO flaps, mass sightings of Mothman, electrical disturbances, always at the edges of reality, always smiling. There's something wrong with that smile. It's not joy, it's not friendliness. It's like it's wearing humanity like a costume, and it doesn't fit. Let's talk about that grin. From a neuroscience standpoint, humans are hardwired to respond emotionally to faces. When a face looks off, a mouth too wide, eyes too still, we experience what's called the uncanny valley effect. Our brains scream, something here looks human, but it isn't. In horror, this is gold. Think about the Joker's frozen grin, the slit-mouthed woman from Japan, even Pennywise from IT. But the Grinning Man, he never jokes, never talks, never moves. He just smiles. After the Elizabeth incident, there were a handful of quiet reports. 1,967, a man in Dayton, Ohio, reported a tall figure following him late at night, grinning like a damn lunatic. 1,971. A teacher in British Columbia claimed a smiling man appeared at the edge of her classroom window on the 2nd floor. 1,975. A similar figure was seen standing motionless on a New Jersey overpass during a thunderstorm. Multiple drivers crashed after spotting him. The press never followed up. Police always denied involvement. But if you look real close, you'll find whispers, threads, dots begging to be connected. Back in the attic, I found more than just one clipping. My father, a military man turned cryptid obsessive, had compiled notes, sketches, letters from strangers across the country. All said the same thing. He's tall. He grins too wide. He appears during moments of fear. What's more, my father underlined a specific theory in his notes. The Grinning Man doesn't follow people. He's called by fear. When you obsess, he arrives. Is it a hallucination? A sleep paralysis demon? A real entity? Or something far worse, something that becomes real the more we believe in it? Let me pause the myth for a second. I want to tell you a story, my story. When I was 14, I stayed up late playing video games. Everyone else was asleep. Around 2:30 a.m., the power cut out. Total blackness. No sound except the wind rattling the glass. I got up, walked to the kitchen to find a flashlight, but something made me stop. I turned to the living room window, and outside standing just across the street was a man. Tall, still, smiling. He didn't move, not once. Just stood there, watching, grinning. I screamed. My mom ran in. When I looked again, he was gone. To this day, I tell myself it was sleep-deprived imagination. But that grin, it was the same as the one I saw years later in my father's clippings. Let's break this down rationally. There are three main schools of thought among researchers and skeptics. Psychological projection. The grinning man is a manifestation of unresolved trauma or repressed fear similar to tulpas or collective hallucinations. Our minds are desperate to give shape to chaos, and sometimes they put a face on it. Extraterrestrial being, a theory heavily pushed by the Derenberger cold case that the grinning man is an alien scout observing human emotion. But why grin? Is it mimicry? Mockery? Interdimensional traveler entity, a popular theory in paranormal circles. The idea that the grinning man is a being who exists at the edges of dimensions visible only when fear opens the right door. Regardless of the theory, one thing is constant. He doesn't speak. He doesn't chase. He doesn't even move. He only smiles. So what's the truth? I don't know. But I do know this. Every myth has a root, and the grinning man has shown up too many times in too many places through too many decades to be dismissed as coincidence. And the deeper I dig, the more I feel like I'm not the one investigating him. He is the watcher, the observer, and maybe the inviter. Final line from my father's notebook. They say the first sighting happened in New Jersey. 2 boys, 1 quiet neighborhood, and a smile that would haunt them for life. Let's go back to the 10th of October, 1966. James Yanchitis and Martin Munov were 2 regular kids ages 11 and 13 walking home from a local playground. It was just after 9 p.m. The street was empty, the wind sharp, the neighborhood dimly lit. They were about 3 blocks from home when James stopped walking. James quoted, "I saw something behind the chain link fence. At first, I thought it was a mannequin until it turned its head." You don't forget a moment like that. When something breaks the pattern of your reality, the shape is right, but the feeling is wrong. Here's what they saw. A tall man, nearly 7 feet, wearing a tight, dark green metallic suit, completely bald, standing on a small hill behind a fence, not blinking, just grinning. Martin, later in life. His mouth didn't move, but I knew he was looking right at us. As a journalist and researcher, I've interviewed over 30 individuals who've claimed to see grinning entities in moments of isolation or distress. One thing they all described? His body didn't move, but he was vibrating, like he existed just outside where he was standing. That doesn't line up with normal hallucinations. This isn't a dream-like figure. It's a hyper-detailed one, sharply lit, realer than real. Fast forward to 1975. By then, I was covering the Eloise flood in New Jersey for the New York Times. While there, I tracked down James Yanchitis, now in his early 20s, working at a plumbing supply store. He agreed to meet me at a quiet diner on the edge of town. He seemed tired, pale, like someone who hadn't truly rested in years. James, leaning in, whispering, "It's not a memory, it's a presence. I still feel it sometimes, just watching." He placed an old cassette recorder on the table. He had prepared a message for me. We were walking home. It was cold, dark. Martin kept teasing me about the ghost lady who haunted this street. Then I saw him standing behind the fence near the overpass hill. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. Just stood there like a mannequin in a windless room. But his smile, I swear, it stretched all the way across his face. Too wide. Like something wearing a skin suit that didn't quite fit. The moment I pointed him out to Martin, the figure slowly turned his head toward us. That was the worst part. Not that he looked at us, but how he looked like he'd already seen us 1,000 times before. According to James, height, over 2 meters, approximately 6'7". Clothing, tight dark green trench, style coat, metallic finish. Expression, frozen grin, showing far too many teeth. Eyes, oversized, pitch black, slightly too far apart. Movement, minimal. But when he turned, it was smooth, mechanical. Humans are good at identifying threats. But this wasn't a threat. It was a question mark wearing a face. What happened next was primal. Martin was the first to run. I followed without thinking. But when I glanced back, he was gone from behind the fence. And then I saw him again, already on the street, standing closer. Same pose. Same smile. But now, directly in our path. James described it like teleportation. Not fast movement, but just appearing where he needed to be. They ran all the way home, never looked back. I locked myself in the bathroom and didn't sleep for 2 days. Let's move to my own experience. 2 days after I met James, I was headed north toward New York. I stopped at a rundown gas station off Route 1. It was past 9 p.m. Cold, a light drizzle. Narrator, your voice slows. I was thinking about James, about that smile, about the way his hands shook while talking. Then I noticed something wrong just outside the edge of the station. At the far end of a narrow alley, a figure stood. Bald, still, facing away. I called out, "You okay there, buddy?" No response. Then he turned. I've seen men smile before. This wasn't that. It was like his face cracked open sideways. Pale, almost translucent skin. Eyes, hollow sockets, but aware. The smile, too wide, stretching past normal anatomy. Arms, dangling, limp. Torso, long, as if the rib cage had too many bones. I swear I never saw him move, not once. But each time I blinked, he was closer. I panicked. I reached under my seat for my old revolver. I aimed, I fired. The bullet hit. I saw it, but nothing happened. No flinch, no recoil, just a slow tilt of the head. And that smile got wider. I unloaded the rest of the magazine and tore out of the station. The door slammed shut behind me. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. I didn't report it. Who would believe me? "Excuse me, officer, I shot a smiling alien," and he just kept smiling. "Yeah, no thanks." But I wrote it down. And in the days after, I started seeing him. Not in the street, not in real life, but on reflective surfaces. Rear view mirrors. Glass. I don't know if he was ever real or if my fear gave him shape. Many witnesses of the Grinning Man report long-term psychological effects. Nightmares of silent watchers. Avoidance of mirrors, windows. Emotional withdrawal and paranoia. Sleep disorders and sleep paralysis. Psychologists have tried to explain this with hyperfixation trauma, where the brain amplifies perceived anomalies into full-blown phobias. But every case, the same smile, the same face, the same night terror. If it's a delusion, why are we all seeing the same face? There's a theory among fringe researchers that the Grinning Man is a threshold entity, a being that lives in between things, between light and dark, between sleep and waking, between belief and fear. You don't summon him. You become visible to him. And once you do, he never forgets your face. I wasn't investigating him, I was introducing myself. That night at the gas station, I said his name out loud, and that might have been the invitation. Why the smile? Why not a scowl, a scream, or silence? What makes a human smile stretch too far so terrifying? Let's start with a fact. Smiling is a social tool. It evolved not as a sign of happiness, but as a submission signal in early primates. Evolutionary psychologists say it likely began as a way to show teeth without aggression, to say, "I mean no harm." But here's the twist. When a smile becomes too still, too wide, or appears in the wrong emotional context, we feel something's wrong. We call this the uncanny smile effect. Coined by roboticist Masahiro Mori, the uncanny valley is a psychological discomfort we feel when something appears almost human, but not quite right. Eyes that don't blink, a smile held too long, proportions that look just off. Narrator, your commentary. We're wired to detect danger in faces, especially faces that mimic us but aren't us. The Grinning Man hits this valley perfectly. Human enough to be familiar, off enough to feel wrong, emotionless enough to terrify. He smiles, but we feel threat, not comfort. And our brains don't know how to process that. Let's zoom out. The Grinning Man isn't just an American boogeyman. Across the world, cultures have warned us about smiling figures that shouldn't smile. Kuchisake Onna, the slit-mouthed woman. Japan's urban legends speak of a woman in a surgical mask who approaches people, usually children, and asks, "Am I pretty?" If you say no, she kills you. If you say yes, she removes her mask, revealing a grotesque ear-to-ear wound, mimicking a forced smile. She doesn't want validation, she wants fear. Her smile isn't joy, it's punishment. This mirrors the Grinning Man's energy. A smile used as violence, not warmth. Ulipka, the smiling one. Siberian folklore. In some remote Russian communities, elders whisper about a tall, pale creature that appears during snowstorms. It stands at the edge of visibility, just at the tree line, smiling. Those who make eye contact with Ulipka fall into trances. They wander into the woods. Most are never seen again. His smile makes you forget where you are, one account says. He makes you follow it. Let's step outside of folklore. Case 1. Surveillance footage, Seattle, 2013. A woman walking alone notices a man across the street smiling at her. She picks up her pace. He doesn't follow. But in later police footage, he appears in frame after frame, closer each time but never walking, always smiling. Police reviewed the footage and dismissed it as compression glitches. But when the woman returned a week later to confront her, fear the man was waiting. Same spot, same grin. She moved states that month. Case 2. Sleep paralysis reports worldwide. In over 300 documented cases of sleep paralysis, patients described tall, dark figures, standing in corners, sometimes with no face, but often smiling silently in the dark, and in multiple reports, he had no teeth, just skin stretched into a grin. Let's dig into the psychology of being watched. Human survival depends on detecting predators. Eye contact from a stranger in darkness triggers your fight or flight reflex. But if they don't blink, if they smile instead of growl, Our brains short circuit. We can't categorize it, so we label it the worst thing we know, a monster in a man's skin. This is why the Grinning Man smile breaks us. It's too calm, too patient, too knowing. Here's where I go off script into a theory I haven't told anyone before. What if the smile isn't his face, but a door, a symbolic threshold, signaling a crossing between dimensions or states of consciousness? The way the Cheshire Cat smiled before fading away, the grin remains even when the body's gone. Think about it. The grin always appears first. The grin doesn't change. And even when the figure is gone, people still dream about the grin. Maybe it's not about what's smiling. Maybe the grin is what's smiling through. What we fear isn't the man. We fear what the man represents. The breakdown of sanity. The silent invasion of our world by something we can't understand. A face that doesn't belong, wearing a smile we should trust, but can't. The Grinning Man reminds us that not all smiles mean safety. Some smiles mean we're already too late. He's been seen in New Jersey, but also in Kyoto, in the Siberian snows, in the Vietnamese countryside. You might call him the Grinning Man, but across the world, they have different names for him. And all the stories end the same way, with a smile. From my research, it became obvious that the Grinning Man, or entities just like him, aren't isolated incidents. They're echoes. Across cultures, centuries, and languages, smiling watchers have shown up under different names with shared traits. Impossibly wide smile, motionless presence, sudden appearance near tragedy or liminality, crossroads, storms, grief, etc. Often no known origin. Let's take a step into pure speculation. What if these beings aren't copies of each other? What if they are the same entity, adapting to culture, shifting its clothing, its voice, its name, but always smiling? What if the Grinning Man doesn't live in one place, but in one emotion? Fear, loneliness, the moment between sobbing and silence. You don't summon him, you feel him, and once you feel him, you'll see him again. He has 100 names, 100 masks, 100 languages, but the eyes don't blink. The body never moves, and the smile never changes. He is the global ghost, the universal joke, and he's already heard you thinking about him. They say he shows up when you're alone, when you're broken, when you're ready. And I think I was ready that night. This is how it happened. It was a Thursday. I had just left a friend's wake. Car accident. No seatbelt, 28 years old. We used to sneak into movie theaters together, laugh at B horror films. You know the kind, cheap masks, dumb jump scares, low budget screams. But the moment they closed the casket, something shifted. The grin they'd painted on him felt wrong. Too wide, too fresh. I walked out before the service ended. I drove for hours. No music, no directions, just away. By 3 a.m., I found myself on an old 2-lane highway, somewhere near exit 17. And that's where I saw him. It started simple. My headlights caught something, a figure standing on the shoulder of the road, just past the guardrail. At first, I thought it was a scarecrow. It didn't move, didn't flinch at the wind, didn't seem to blink in the headlights. I slowed down without meaning to. He was wearing something dark, maybe a trench coat, maybe something older. His face was pale, glossy almost. His head was completely bald, no eyebrows, no shadows from the nose. And his mouth It was as if someone had drawn a grin with a carving knife and never told him to stop smiling. I should have driven away, but I didn't. I pulled over. My car idled as I stared at him through the windshield. He was no more than 10 meters away. No movement, just grinning. I honked the horn once. No reaction. And then I swear to God the street lamp above him went out. No flicker, no warning, just click. Darkness. I told myself I was just tired, that I needed to see up close, prove it was nothing. I stepped out of the car, flashlight in hand. "Hey," I called, "are you all right?" Still nothing. No footsteps, no wind, just the sound of my shoes on wet pavement. As I got closer, I noticed something wrong with his proportions. His arms were just a bit too long, legs too straight, like a man drawn from memory by someone who had never actually met one. He didn't flinch, didn't turn his head, but I knew he saw me. I felt it, that pressure behind the eyes, that thing animals feel before a predator leaps. When I reached the guardrail, I stopped. He was just beyond it, on the edge of a wooded slope, half in shadow, half in the moonlight. His grin didn't change. His head slowly tilted to one side. "You're not real," I whispered. "You're just a story." That's when he moved. Just slightly, a twitch of the shoulder, a step forward. No sound, no weight. I turned to run, but something stopped me. A light flickered behind me, my car's headlights, and in the driver's seat. He was sitting there, grinning, but I never heard the door open. I staggered back. Looked again, he was gone. Back where he'd been before. No footprints, no sound, no breath in the air. Just me, and a smile. That's when I heard it. Not a word, not a voice, a sound like a camera shutter. I turned around again. He was closer, same spot, but now 3 meters closer. Each time I looked away, he advanced, without walking, like blinking in reverse. My legs finally moved. I ran. I jumped into the car, locked the doors, threw it in reverse. But in the rearview mirror, he was already behind me, grinning, closer. I floored it. The car screeched, skidded onto the road. I didn't stop for 20 miles. When I got home, I collapsed onto the couch. I barely slept. And when I did, I saw him again. This time, in my room, not in the doorway, not in the window, in the mirror, smiling. "You called me," he said, without moving his mouth. "You looked." I covered every reflective surface in my home that night. To this day, I don't own mirrors. And sometimes on the edge of sleep, I still hear that sound. The click. They say the grinning man doesn't chase you, doesn't haunt you, doesn't hurt you. He just waits. For the moment you break. For the moment you're alone. For the moment you smile back. Do not stare too long into the smile, or the smile will stare back.